morning, everybody.
It was so much fun to be a part of. Yeah.
I'm not very musical. Good morning. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. Oh yeah, everybody get their stuff up on the board. Anything you care to share? Thanks, Carrie. No, you're not going to the board. Okay. All right. We'll give everybody a minute to get to the board.
Do it. Please, I don't know. You go ahead. I've never done this before, so
You've never done the board?
yeah, I don't know. I'm just watching to see what's happening. I'll let Anna do that.
All right, you guys, we can start it. Put your stuff up there. I have to do too. Look at Lisa Moon. I had to do too. Okay. All right, we're going to get started. So, thanks everybody for being here this morning. Joy share. I know we have a joy share this morning.
Well,
Much joy. Dale?
hi. Pretty joyful weekend for me. So I did the street fair again this year, and I scooped ice cream for many hours in the hot sun and helped set up, and all was good. And first thing that happened is I got a listing referral for a duplex in Sellwood. Talked to that guy for a long time. He emailed me pictures. That's awesome. And then this crazy thing happened. I got home, I'm exhausted, I'm hot, and I get this phone call out of the blue, and these clients saw Anna's listing and were unrepresented and said they wanted to work with someone in the living room because we're a B corporation. I've never had that happen.
Can I say something there?
Oh.
I sold living room like it was myself. I told them we were a B corporation, we were an amazing group of people, no matter who they would reach out. So, and they reached out to me.
And so they came by the street fair, but I'd already left. And someone gave them my business card. And so they reached out to me, and we went and spent a lot of time at Anna's listing, and we wrote an offer, and it was accepted. And here's sort of the icing on the cake. They have a house to sell too. So it's a couple hours well spent scooping ice cream. So please come work the street fairs. They're super fun. And last year I got a listing referral too. So time well spent.
So from that, Alyssa.
Hi, I'm going to come right over here so that I can stay on the camera so that anybody streaming gets this information. I have several exciting things to tell you all. To go straight from the street fair chat, we have 2 more upcoming street fairs. We would love for you to come and hang out with us at. Membership services will be there, but we can't do it all ourselves, and we obviously Dale has sold you all so much on the value of showing up to a street fair to help us scoop ice cream. Come, get covered in chocolate ice cream with us. It's really weird and really fun. So the Alberta Street Fair is August 12th, and we will have our booth right out here. We'll have a parade. It's going to be super, super fun. If you are interested in volunteering for Alberta, please do email me. I will be there and coordinating everything. Multnomah Days is on the 19th, and Kate will be running that. So Multnomah Days is slightly different than the rest of the street fairs because it's so small, and it is just the cutest thing, guys. It's super fun. So that is the street fair situation. On the table, I have put up, I dropped these around. These are the new Empowered Super Flyers. We have done a light redesign on them to be less repetitive. There is less text, and bigger photos. They're really, really pretty. Feel free to look through the ones that are around here. They look really great. They essentially have all the same information. It's just more clear and less repetitive. So that is super exciting. So if you get with the empowered packages, that is a thing that can happen for you. The next thing on the agenda is super, super exciting. We are partnering with Green Drop Garage to have what we call Green Drop Garage Prime, which means that for a $15 fee every month, you can have unlimited maintenance on your car at Green Drop Garage. They will do all your oil changes. They will replace your windshield wipers. They will do all of the top-ups, tire rotations, all the car things that it takes to have a car that runs all the time. They will manage all of that, and it's a $15 subscription every month, and it is super high value. And one of the really cool things is you can drop it for members and staff. You can drop your car off at Green Drop in Southeast, and they will give you a complimentary lift to the Southeast office, so you can continue to work, and then they will have that same lift bring you back when your car is done. So you don't have to worry about that. What's up, Boo? Do they do detailing? That is not, I think, part of this, but there are additional services that they can take care of. I will be sending around a full list of exactly what this is going to look like, and you will find those flyers in your mailboxes within the next week so that you can subscribe. This is also something you can extend to your family and your clients. So all the details will be forthcoming, but that is happening, and it's really, really exciting. So we're really excited to part with Parad over there at Green Drop Garage. And then the last thing is this week is last Thursday, and we will have Bernadette Estrada. Her art will be up here on the walls, and come and hang out with us this Thursday evening. We're gonna get weird and eat snacks, and it's gonna be really pretty fun.
And for any of you who don't know, Bernadette is Tracy Hinkle's
Wife.
wife. I wasn't sure if it was wife. Yes,
Yeah.
they're married, wife.
So that's all the news.
Thank you, Alyssa. Okay, tour, Amanda. Sorry.
Let's do it. Anyone want to go with me?
Any other drivers available?
I can drive. Looks like we don't have that many people, so. Okay. Now we can go. That is really fun. How can I tell this to you anymore? Yeah, yes. See, excuse. What's wrong with the rest of you?
Okay, so, tour. Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Jennifer?
I have a townhouse in St. John's on tour. It's like a little part condo. Sorry, I can see them as well. It's a townhouse, and it's right across from Beaver Park. So it's like super hot location. You can walk downtown to St. John's. I don't know if anybody's ever been to these townhouses, but they're really, really cute. It's 1 bedroom plus a loft den area. On the upper level, main level's like real open with living room and open kitchen, and then it has a full garage. So you only have 1 acre on one side, which is nice. And there's no rental cap in here. So with everything that's happening in St. John's, it's a pretty hot location to buy in. It's listed for $260. It's on tour at 8629 North Crawford Street. I'd love for you guys to come by and check it out. These sellers, they need to sell. The comps, oh, it has a view of the bridge. Comps are without the bridge, less, or at 260, so, yeah.
And you're there today,
I'm there today, 11 to 1.
11 to 1.
You can come by.
Awesome. And Gavin, let's see, Gavin, Terry, Kareem? Nope, okay. So Gavin has 30 Northeast 85th Avenue, 4-bedroom, 2-bath Tudor, $575, open today 11 to 1. He will not be feeding you. Terry Toombs, again,
Yeah, right.
535 Northeast Rosa Parks. Let's see, 8:35. It's a plex, that's all it says. Also open today 11 to 1, she will be feeding you. And Kareem and Jessica have 1904 Southeast 43rd. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow, 539.9, 11:30 to 1:30. They will also feed you. And Dulcinea and Aaron wanted to remind you that they still have 5005 Northeast Alberta Court, priced at $375. It's a 3-1 by the park, super cute. Sell it. Okay. Cynthia?
I have a listing for live on Friday, it's on the first day. It's in Southeast, it's a Woodstock on 44th, 6106 Southeast 44th. It's just kitty corner, the double house, it's great, 3 bedrooms, beautiful hardwood floors, master on the main, huge backyard, partially finished basement for bonus space. Practical influence. Painted blue inside and out, all the trim inside is painted, so it's really well maintained and in great shape. 539.
Davia?
So Theory and I have a listing coming on this Friday, and it's a Bob Schatz custom designed architectural homes on Southeast 71st on Mount Tabor. So it has unending east views. And the house has a lot of exposed beams and timbers and open space. I mean, it's the architecture, once you're in the house, you feel like, well, yeah, she'll pass me by. So the way this house lays out, it's kind of like having a penthouse condo type feel with a low maintenance, level terraced yard. Double car attached garage, so level there, level driveway. So even though you're like on the slope, you've got all this parking. And then beneath, or the lower level of the house has huge high ceilings, big east facing windows, but it was built originally for a musician. And so this space is either extended room for the home. It feels like art or passion project space. And I mean, there's tons of it. And it's well lit, high ceilings, all very cool. Potential ADU possibility. It's got a separate entrance. So the whole thing is just delightful to see and to be in. And it's $775. It'll be an open house this Saturday and next Tuesday, no March Friday.
Awesome, thank you. Chrissy?
Tracy has a small condo in Goose Hollow coming on today. There's no room before, but there will be open house on Saturday. It's in the Four Seasons, which is 20th and Main, you're actually coming over from the Macklin. So it's a cute little, almost 500 square foot bedroom. Like, it's 1 bedroom, really the wings, kind of nice, big open windows, and great. The top floor, you have a great view of like the west, and it's 45. It's 485 square feet, sorry, it's 230. There's no parking in these, like all that.
I saw somebody else. Oh, Susie?
We also have a little condo coming on the market in Foster Howell. It's 544 square feet, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, beautiful little hardwood floors, natural light, and it's coming on
So I have a 4-bedroom, 2-bath in the Richmond, fully custom designer homes with a full ADU other than it's not full ADU. But, I mean, bedroom, living room, the whole bit, completely done. Bottom $699 from one.
Where is it?
In the Richmond, it's at 45th and Ivy. It's like right there.
In the Richmond?
Southeast.
Oh, the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never heard someone say in the Richmond.
I always say, I'm from California, so I would say everything else is above.
Okay.
Before the 10 group. But yeah, 45th and Ivy.
I'm gonna be, I have the Timberland, it is. Condo, which is over in Cedar Mill, is anybody familiar with the Timberland complex? So this is owned by an interior designer, and she's dialed it out, it's 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, ground level, ADA compliant, and it'll be 280. She's, all these other ones have been selling like hotcakes around the we have another builder, Great Urban. She's put in LVT, grass cloth wallpaper. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm putting a lockbox on it today. I'm probably going to market Thursday. So if you guys have anybody looking, it's such a cool area. It'll be $279. So it's a 2-2, 966 square feet. The address is 590 Northwest Lost Springs, number 102. And it does come with a garage, but the area is just awesome because you've got toys, bar, Orange Theory, like it's such its own little cool community. It's in this downtown to like in 11 night. Right. So just a heads up, I'll have a lockbox on it today, so if somebody is looking out that area. And then I've got some other things coming up. Something between it's a Ethan Beck sustainable house that he built in 2007 in sustainable style, hardwood floors throughout, vaulted bedrooms, 3 beds, 2.5 baths, 1,500 square feet, will be 489, and it's right on 47 between Division and Lincoln. So walking right there. I still have my house unlockable on the street, and thank you to everybody who came through last week. The feedback has been awesome, but it's still sitting there, so I'm a fire builders, we should. Thank you.
All right, Anna?
I have one medical property coming up on hopefully on Friday. It's a Villa Beaumont for communicate in Stanton and Siskiyou. It's a house that has been completely remodeled. I think the only thing left from the original house was one foundation. So it is like new, a beautiful open great room space with massive kitchen island. It has all the bells and whistles. Typical, beautiful, new remodels. And it's going to come in the market at 1.5. So we have any customers looking at that picture. It's going to be appointment only, but
Awesome. You guys, Leslie?
Good morning. I have a neutral but very sweet house. It's on the corner of very right large bedroom. The home is okay. It's not a lockbox yet, and I won't have it on until they return. So hopefully lockbox. Right now we're kind of separating from the house and we're a little bit. So kind of, so just be patient with me and hopefully it all goes plan. It will be active on August 3rd. And if it's not, I'll just sit over there and come in. So, it goes with the territory. You can hold your hands in mind. It is, 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath, and a 26 square feet with an attached garage. Everything they have done in this house is done on criminal style, but it's their style. And there is an unusual audio room in the basement where he was actually very slightly hurt, rock out and saw. Maybe you can speak to this. I mean, John was so, there's no bed.
It's like this acoustic wall, so if you movies and music, it's like, yeah, they like acoustically. Yeah, kind of like you can't tell looking at it, and you go there, you like go up to it, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's just like, but you know, also the location of this place is just spectacular. The best little order.
Okay.
It's just an unusual opportunity because this has been there for 2 years. So please ask that you have it and hopefully you'll get it. And then we will ask the next one. So the address is 309 South Street.
Thanks, Leslie. Sean?
Andrew Byron.
Yes.
Really quickly, I have a wonderful client, single mom, 3 kids, wants to stay in the Laurelhurst school district. Looking for anything 500 or under. So if you've got anything like that, please let me know.
Okay, cool. Is that it?
Sorry, one more thing. I sent out an email this morning asking for price opinions. If anybody wants to help me price a house, right across from Columbia Park, I would love if you guys could take time and.
My car was about by that.
Yeah, and see it.
What did you say? What did you
My
say?
car will be swinging
Your
by.
car's gonna swing by there.
7055 North Wolseley.
Maybe you'll be in it, but your car is definitely going.
Yeah, I just would love some help pricing it. It's an as-is sale, it's the state, and it's super cute. Same owner since 1916. She recently passed, and it's adorable Cape Cod. But I need to come up with pricing, and I've had 4 agents over there, and it was so wildly different. I was like, this is stupid. I need some more people because I'm vexed, and there was $100,000 range between. Like, come on. So I really would love, a couple more eyeballs on it and just kind of see where the movie lands.
What's the address again?
7055 North Wolsey Avenue. There's a lockbox. It is, you're standing facing the house, and you're walking towards the driveway. There is a window, and it's behind the bush on the gas meter. Thank you.
Great. Okay, let's take a look at our board. So, interesting. I think the biggest thing that I'm noticing, other than this 2.5 ways over, is everything is still coming in right at list price or just barely over. You notice that? We've gone away from the 3 and 5 and 7 times over or whatever. So I think it's pretty clear that the market is beginning to balance. Okay, that's a good. And there are some belows. Yeah, exactly. Good point. Yeah. And like I was saying, I've noticed in Transaction Point over the last few weeks, counter offers going back and forth. Buyers aren't afraid to say no and to keep, so it's, yeah. I think that's interesting. I'm curious about the sign though that went 2.5 ways over. What was the sign?
The sign was that I was presenting offers to my customers, and we were discussing what to accept and how to count it, etc. And we arrived to this conclusion. The transaction is with them. And at some point, when we were kind of getting agreement on that, I looked at my text, and I see a text from Dale with an addendum to her offer, and it was exactly the same thing that we decided that we were going to counter with my customers. So we say, this is a sign. We need to go with Dale's buyers.
That's funny. That's great.
Damn.
And we were a financed offer, and the other offers were cash.
The other two were cash. So
The other two were cash.
she did the two cash.
Wow.
Did you give up, can I ask, did you give up appraisal or anything, or?
We did a little of this and that.
Yeah, you did a little bit. Okay, cool.
Because
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I
So-
am going
so-
to do everything in my power to make this the best transaction.
So the lesson here is that financing can beat out cash, right? We don't have to say, oh, we can't go up against cash. You can tell your clients, yeah, you can. We just gotta be creative.
Can I say one more thing that I kind of learned in this process is regarding escalation clauses that I hadn't given a lot of thought to, but if you're up against cash offers and you're only escalating like $1,000, that's not enough to make a difference. So, well, it could be 10 or 15 or 20 if you're up against several cash offers. But I guess my point is just that, if you're up only against cash, it's definitely not, you're not going to be a winner for the most part. So,
Sometimes
You
the
won.
cash offer people are kind of cocky. And
Yeah.
so I advise
Totally.
them, because they can have whatever they want,
Right, they
so
believe that this.
sometimes the finance people are gonna hang in there with you, and you can
Yeah.
appreciate, you can say, hey, guess what? We're gonna give it to you, we're not taking the cash,
I've definitely had a
And they're
lot of
like, hell yes.
people back out.
all the time. More often than any other type of offer.
You think cash backs out
guys
more
back
than-
More than anybody, right?
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Probably because they just figure they can just go wherever, do whatever.
Yeah.
And I've had all of the times that I've had buyers go into backup and then get the house, it's always because the first position cash buyer.
Is backed out.
Yeah. And, you know, your clients who don't have a very big down payment, they're gonna stick in there till the end and it works.
Good point.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
People with lots of cash have no soul.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Welcome to living room.
All right. Okay. So we haven't really looked at the market stats over the last couple of weeks with our speakers. So I don't have my glasses. I'm gonna do the best I can here. So looking at the Portland market. So what I did is I looked at a month ago to where we are today, and then we have been going week to week, but since we missed the last two, so that's why I pulled a month ago, last week, and then our current week. Average list price, end of June, $672. A week ago, $645. So 2 weeks ago, and then this last week holding steady at $645. Number of listings with price reductions, end of June, says 39%. Well, not number, percent, that doesn't say, it's not a number, it's a percentage. End of June, 39%. 2 weeks ago, 42%, and this week's still holding steady at 42. And days on market, end of June, we had 62 days, and now it's dropping a little bit, 54 and 58, so kind of in there. Which I think it's interesting with price reductions going up over the last month, and yet days on market going down.
It seems like price reductions are happening like two acres listed.
It's like they know that they shouldn't be asking that. Like, okay.
You think buyers or sellers are listening to their realtors all quicker?
Yeah, I think people are coming along like, we hope to get this, and then, as an agent, I'm telling people, well, if you don't get this, you're overpriced. You know, you can reduce it now and get a buyer, or you can wait a few weeks or a month and then reduce it.
Yeah.
So I think because I'm seeing 1, 2 weeks, and then there's a reduction.
Well, I know that we saw this last year too, right? As school got out and coming into the 4th of July holiday, we kind of saw the market level off and just kind of quiet a little bit and then pick up the end of July. And I'm wondering if this is kind of a reflection of that with list price being, where did I get that idea? I got that idea somewhere. Reading this. But it just seemed to me that, well, the number of with price reductions, well, that's going up too. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I thought last night, but now I'm not seeing why I thought that. But it seemed to make sense.
Does it say the number of listings? Did you already say that?
I didn't write that down.
Okay.
For the market? Oh.
More listings. I just feel like so many people think that June and July are the best times. Let's just wait and just flood the market.
And that has something to do with it? Yeah.
Well, then everyone will go back to school.
And now if they're trying to create their seller in the last
I met with the seller yesterday, and we were trying to look at the schedule to put their house on the market, and their schedule was so booked up, like with their personal stuff, they don't have time to get anything, ready and going, so really, we're talking like later in August versus sooner. And I was looking at their schedule, and they're like, we don't even know where we're going day to day. They're so busy with people traveling in and them having to travel and things with their kids, that they just didn't have the capacity. So I think yeah. I mean, retail's a little slow, just riding around looking at restaurants. People are just doing their own thing.
I'm pulling that up for you here. Just 1 second, and I can get a number of properties. Here we go. So back in June, end of June, Inventory was 1562. That was the number of properties that were listed. And then the last 2 weeks, it's held steady at 1776. So we have more on the market right now. So does that, yeah. Okay. Our living room stats. We have done year-to-date 209 million in sales. This last week, we've closed 9.5 million. Congratulations, you guys are rocking it. We currently have 90 active listings, 138 deals in transaction. Our average days on market is 28. Write that down, right? Use it in your listing presentations. Let's see, average list price, $449. And I checked, I think I mentioned for anybody who was here a few weeks back, we looked at Q2, second quarter market share. And for areas 141, 142, 143, 148, so basically Portland, the city of Portland, we, second quarter, end of second quarter, we're in number one. We were number one at 4.92% of the market share. And as of July, for the month of July, we are now at 5.44 and holding steady in first position with the next person below us at about 4.7% of the market share and twice as many agents. Yeah. So next week, I started kind of going into it last night, and it was very interesting looking at our competition and where some of the other companies that we're kind of dealing with. I know some people have asked about Redfin and where they kind of play out in this, and they stay pretty steady between number 11 and 14. They kind of fluctuate in there. So, but next week we're going to dig a little deeper into market stats, kind of look at what's happening to this point. We'll be at the end of July, so we'll kind of look at where we're at overall, where some of the other offices are.
Does anybody know what Redfin's latest offer is to people that decide to list with them?
Do you?
Do they have lost something? A listing to someone, and they went exactly with my price. And I was wondering if, like, oh yeah, you're getting like a chunk of your commission back.
Yeah,
I thought they're not allowed to do that in order.
They're not.
No, but there's gotta be something.
Commission structure.
Is it the commission?
They're 4.5% commission, that's where you're often listed, you know.
But they're piling 1% in California right now.
Wow. Gross.
So that's their deal, kind of across the board. So if you're up against a Redfin agent, they're all going to charge 4.5%. Doesn't matter who it is. It's good to know, because then you can be like, fine, I'll be fine.
Well,
or
It doesn't matter. They have no incentive to get you more money for your month.
Well, and I think that should be more the message rather than they do 4.5, so we'll do 5. Just, I think you have an opportunity to really sell what we have to offer. They can't, topic today, Surface, they can't give you, I mean, more people doesn't make it necessarily better, right?
So this particular client, was really turned off by Keller Williams because their ownership is super right wing, and I'm not a political person, but kind of aligned with some kind of hectic right wing Trumpy stuff. What do we know about the ownership with Redfin? Anyone? I'm not trying to lose out to another Redfin agent.
I will find out for you.
Please do.
I think ultimately the bigger message is that
they loved us and they sold us, and they were really psyched on the B Corp and the women.
And did you ask them when they said we're going this way?
My mistake was that I didn't ask who else they were going to interview. And I know that that's the standard protocol for a lot of the big time listing agents will be like, who else are you interviewing? And I knew that they talked to a Keller person, and I'm like, oh, I got this, And I'm just like, I'm going to do me, and either you're going to choose me or not, but I regretted not asking who else are you talking to?
One thing I
And
like
what's
to point
been-
out to sellers is like, yeah, they do cut their commissions, and if they were so great, why wouldn't everyone be using a firm like that? Like, why wouldn't you pay less if it was great service? It's not, like, you're not getting the same level of service, you get what you pay for.
Well, and next week when we look at these stats too, we'll also look at where things are closing. So what is our average, right? What's our average sale price versus somebody else's? So if it is a 1% commission, you know, I'm pretty sure when I was looking at it last night, there's a considerable difference in what their average closing price is. And I'll try to pull up also where they're, I have to talk to Eleanor because she's way better at the numbers than I am, but where they're listing versus where they're selling. Because I think not just Redfin, but just the market overall. I mean, where are people, it's great to offer these big prices, right? And these cheap commissions, and then they get on their calculator and they figure it out, and it's like, wow, I'm gonna make so much more money. But if in the end you close down here and it takes an extra month, is that really a deal? Is that really the best way to go? Aren't you better off paying a higher commission, pricing your house correctly, and getting it sold? And that, I think, is the message that we need, and so, you know, that we need to be sharing, and also we'll give you some stats behind that so that you can do that.
And their buyer's agent model is also bizarre. Like I had, you know, listings and open house, and like, who are you working with? And I expect to hear a name, and they're like, oh, Redfin. Like, not a particular person.
The Kaiser of real estate.
Yeah. It's kind of
You need to make measurements, your server's just kind of rotating.
right. Yeah. So to me, that's weird.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like if you go to Kaiser, you go in and you've got a doctor appointment, and you just don't know who your doctor's going to be until you walk through the door, right? I don't know. That's what it used to be.
That happened with me too.
You did?
Yeah.
And do you know why? Did you ask why? It was the commission.
I have found that people who Redfin or other they're very overstressed and very anxious and kind of angry if you call them. Or the agents. Yes, the agents are so, I have 18 listings, I can't talk to you. I'm like, okay.
Well, I think, unfortunately, you know, I think you'll find that all throughout the market with a lot of agents now. I mean, I hear pretty frequently from you guys, I can't get a call back. I don't know if they've gotten my offer. They're not letting me know. I don't know what to do. My, repair addendum's coming up. I'm not getting calls. And so I think, and then you hear, oh, they've got so many listings or they've got so many clients. And I think that's something that just in this market, because there are a lot of clients out there and, there is a lot of business to be had and people are afraid to refer it out. So any of you that I've talked to, when you're like spinning it, and I'll say to you, just refer it out. Know what your limits are. Give your absolute best service that you can for the clients that you're working with. And because it's not really worth it. At the end of the day, it's not worth the stress level for you, and your clients aren't getting great service. I'm not saying any of you do that, but I think that that's what we find is when, and I don't think it's just one company that does that. I think it's all across the market. I know all of you have been in those situations where you're like, I can't get this person on the phone. And then they say to you, hey, back off. I've got 4,700 listings or whatever it is. I'm working with 18 buyers right now. I don't have time to call you back. Well, guess what? We're in transaction, right? So, I mean, I think that's a really good lesson for all of us, that if we're too busy to call back co-op agents or return calls to clients, then it's time to maybe put the brakes on and refer it out, right?
I do think that's always been the case, but goodness, good agents for one company, they're always remain polite and answer the call, answer the text, and it doesn't take that much.
No, it doesn't.
By the time you're, heard, then you can so it's always good to be professional.
Exactly. So, service, that takes us right into service for our last 15 minutes. So, service takes your game up a notch. It's how you stand out in a busy market. You know that. And Terry Toombs said to me, it's TCB, taking care of business is service. She's so funny. Or no, TCB, that's service. I know. She said that. And I said, when are you going to come and lead a class, meeting for us?
She
Okay.
have 7 listings.
Huh?
She's got a lot of listings right now. She's busy.
Yeah, she's very busy right now.
Great.
Yeah. So I think that we have to look at ourselves, or I hope that you guys look at yourselves as kind of the concierge of real estate, right? I mean, for our clients, anticipating their needs, answering questions. I mean, for me, the worst thing for me when I have a client is when I'm like, I gotta call them and tell them this, and then my day gets a little bit busy, and then they call me and go, hey, what about this? And I'm like, oh, dang it. I wish I had called you, because if I had done that, when I would be like, they'd think I was psychic or something, right? Because we know it's there. I have to tell you a story. So, unrelated to real estate, we have some friends who, when they got married, they spent a couple nights in an auberge resort. I don't know if any of you are familiar with auberge. They're super high-end, beautiful properties, and they're all over the country and down in Mexico, and actually my cousin's company, but they went and spent a couple nights at auberge, and she said one night they went down to the restaurant and they had this amazing dinner, and they came back and they were sitting there and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. And she said out loud, the only thing that would make this night better is if somebody brought me some chocolate-covered strawberries. And in 10 minutes, somebody knocked on the door and brought her chocolate-covered strawberries. So I was like, yeah, that's a little creepy, because I think but
Are there also cameras?
right, yeah, right, exactly. But it is just something that they do there. So it's just kind of, anticipating that need and getting ahead of it. Working with buyers, what are some of the things that you guys, did you think about that at all last night? Like, what are some of the things you do to provide service and stand out? What's the extra little thing you do?
Sure. So, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. I'll make this long story real short. Wonderful buyers, got them into contract, they bailed last day of inspections. Got them into contract, they bailed last day of inspections. Had a real heart-to-heart conversation with them in that third go-around, as I'm not in this business to write offers and go through inspections. I'm here to sell houses. Let's do this. And it was a moment when we closed last week on their house where there was full appreciation. Like they acknowledged the process that we went through together, and it was an opportunity to say, 1, I don't like losing, 2, I don't like quitting, and I want to take care of you. You're my people. And so it was one of those moments that was particularly frustrating for me, but it is what it is. I wrote my blog post yesterday, and it's what brings it to mind as to understand your clients. You go through it all the time. They don't go through it very often. They oftentimes, when they're young and they're first-time home buyers, they don't even know what they want. They won a competitive situation. All of a sudden, they realize they didn't really want the house that they wanted because we had been beat out on a few offers because their terms weren't great. So just writing the blog post yesterday, I probably took a little longer than I needed to, but it really reminded me of what our clients go through and the indecision that they face and coming through to the end and just providing good service. So to maintain a relationship through all that was a bit of a challenge, but it was well worth it.
Well, and I wonder about that, I think about that a lot of times in those last 10 to 14 days of the transaction. You've got them through the inspections, you've done your repair addendum, you're talking to them all the time, you deal with the appraisal, you let them know, okay, we're good, appraisal's in, great, now all we have to do is close. And then, is it silence for 10 to 15 days? Are they just sitting there going, nobody's calling me, I wonder what it means? Are we reaching out in those last 10 days? And what are you saying? Hey, just say hi, what do you do in those last days? Service.
I always check in with their lender and CC them, has the CD coming, that kind of thing, just to kind of, because there's those last few days or weeks, they're dealing with the lender, so I just kind of insert myself into questioning how that's going, just to sort of follow up.
Jen, did you have something?
So
looking at, Kristen Lincoln's, mentioned like a year ago. She does weekly conference calls with all of her clients, like same day, same time, every week. They do it. I started doing it too, and it just totally changed everything.
It did, yeah. I know she does her listing update, or tells her sellers that they will hear from her on every Thursday. I know that she does the Thursday thing, but she does it with all of her clients.
I don't know if she does it with all of them now. It might just be the listings.
Yeah.
But I do it with all of mine unless they opt out of it. And it's really connected me much more with my clients than I was before. They just rely on it. They can call me anytime, but they just know that that's like the day that they can talk about whatever.
They know they're gonna hear from you no matter what. Yeah.
I had, not my clients, if somebody wanted to use me in a transaction because they didn't like the realtor, and I supported their transactions, and I hope that does well. Her complaints were, she was telling me that she's just like, I call him, I tell him to do something, he's not doing it, and then he tells me that he talked to his other agents, and that's not what they would, just basically the general sense of not listening at all to what they were asking him to do, not calling when, she wanted him to call, regardless of whether there was information. It was just like, wow, seems like such an easy softball as somebody who's working with a client to just listen to them, but I think you take for granted that people just don't do that. So,
well, I think hearing you say that too, I think one of the things too that I think sometimes run into problems are agents are expecting something to be done and the agent has done it, but hasn't informed them that it's done. And then the client comes back and says, I wanted this, I wanted that, and you're like, I did it. But what, they don't know that. Yeah, you need to follow through with that. So I think that's interesting. So I hope one of the things too, I think like service right to the very end and beyond. I hope that you guys are, if you're not available, that you're at least employing Natalie when it comes time to closing, that you're doing actual walkthroughs with your buyer, because I always get a little nervous when I hear that people are dropping off keys at the office and then they're going into that house for the first time all by themselves. I mean, I think one of the things that can happen is that if the seller's on their way out the door, their brother-in-law scraped the couch across the floor but didn't tell them, they don't know that that's happened, and the buyer walks in and the buyer tells you a day or two later, oh yeah, by the way, the floor was all scratched, and now the seller says that's not my fault. And the buyer's like, well, it was there. And then it's a, he said, she said thing.
Just, hire me to do it, and I bring signs for pictures, so.
You do?
Yeah, so I always have signs in my car, so if you want a client picture, you get a client picture.
That's nice. But I just think it's really important that somebody is representing when you're handing off those keys, doing that last walk through, opening cupboards and closets, and just saying, yeah, it's empty, it's clean, it's beautiful, it's yours, right? We had a situation a few days ago, and I know other people have been in this situation, with some repairs that everybody agreed would get done after closing, and the whole transaction was super amicable, and a very agreeable list agent, and great sellers, yes to all the repairs, but there was something that couldn't get done until after closing. Buyer felt good, buyer's agent felt good, yeah, we'll let him handle it afterwards. Contractor's gonna get scheduled, they're coming in a week later, seller's gonna pay for it, all sounds perfect, right? We could all get sucked into, yeah, okay, I feel good about that. You tell your buyer, it'll be fine. I know this is list agent, it'll be fine. All of a sudden, seller goes MIA, doesn't wanna pay, doesn't wanna do anything. Now what? I mean, yes, transaction's over, right? Your part of the deal is done, you've done it. But is it really the time to walk away?
I'm still having a buyer from like 4 months ago.
You are.
You've got it in contract, what the deal is, like everybody's gonna sign an addendum to the effect what the new deal is, so there's small claims.
Right, and that's the thing, is once the transaction is over, the transaction is over, unless there's an addendum that says this repair survives closing. So that is your, but otherwise it's kind of a hit or miss. But either way, beyond the contract language, my feeling is it's your responsibility. So what happened in this situation is the list agent's managing broker said the deal is done, you guys need to step out. It's not your deal anymore, it's between the buyer and
You
the
kind of
seller.
hold the money, when I've been in that situation, I hold that you do 1.5 times the amount of the estimate held back in escrow.
You hope that that happens, yeah.
You do that.
Well, yeah, it
You
should.
don't hope, you do that.
But if-
before-
but-
if it's gonna be, cause like sewer line guys are out 3 weeks, you know, and you're
Right.
like, all right, not the close.
But how does how does the lender feel about that? The whole that?
I was distracted.
Lender hold back for a repair after closing.
We can do holdbacks for paint and roofs and, pretty much everything else, and it has to be during rainy season. I don't really know.
So there's gotta be a reason that it absolutely cannot be done today. That's why you would do a holdback.
Well, it has to be a reason, yeah, like you
Like
can't
weathers,
paint and
yeah.
then when it's raining, you know, or
Right.
it has to be something, it has to do with weather. Like my office, at least, they won't do anything unless it has to do with weather. And I actually, in the 13 years I haven't, I don't think I've ever even done it.
Everybody's really busy.
It's sunny and everybody's really busy, does that count?
All the clients I work for have always said no.
I tried to do that, and it didn't happen, so we just had to agree to do it after closing, and I was representing the seller, and I was very nervous about it, but
That
it
your,
happened.
yeah, that your server, well, or your server, your seller. And in this case, the list agent guaranteed that if the seller didn't come through, they would. And then afterwards said, well, my managing broker said I need to step out and not be involved with this. Wow.
Service, you're doing service, so I think, you know, sometimes you're in this relationship for 45 days or so, and you get kind of tired, you know, as the right-hand person, and you forget the small things sometimes, like, I always send thank you cards, we hit milestones, I send thank you cards, I do Popeyes. I mean, granted, I'm working primarily with my people, and so it's comfortable, it's not like I'm working with people I've never known before, but it's everything. So at the end of the transaction, you're like, oh, that was so communicative, and she was so kind, and I think literally it was the thank you cards, you know, it was something so simple.
So you send thank you cards all the way throughout your
I
transactions?
will send, yeah.
How many do you send to one person?
Well, I mean, I might send in a regular transaction where they have to grade it through all these little, so maybe 3, and then I'll drop by some wine or some bubbles and be like, we got this. Because, and then when they go into lending, I call it the big wait. And so during the big wait, what I'll do is I'll bring, of course, I'm all of my lenders, just making sure we are moving forward. And then I'll just pop in every now and again and say my buyers, I'll be like, so hey, you're doing great. I know that underwriting is asking the 3rd time for a bunch of stuff, totally normal. We just went through this and just give them encouragement. And then when it's done, they're like, actually, it wasn't that bad. I always prepare them for sort of like, you know, the troubles that lie ahead. And then they go, it wasn't so bad, Donette, it wasn't so bad. So, you know, just talking, just working with them, talking, feeding them, you know, listening to them.
I love thank you notes throughout the transaction.
Thank you notes, super important, super important. But my big success in service was I'm in the Caribbean Sea, headed toward Honduras. I get an email, and it's my seller, the female portion of my seller. And she's like, oh my God, can you call me? We're like finally in contract at list price. This has been a long process. And she goes, I really need to talk to you. I go, honestly, I'm in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. Like, I don't know how to get, she goes, can you Skype me? Who uses Skype? I was like, I don't even know how to do this. Couldn't do it. It took me 30 minutes. I'm in my little cabin and everything. I'm like, okay, fine. I pick up the phone. I'm like, can you get me a landline? I need to talk to this woman. And for 30 minutes, she told me how she can't do it. I don't like the buyer, the female portion, and all this stuff. I'm like, like literally listened to her for 30 minutes, a little therapy session, and then she pulled it back together, and we were on our way. But I was like, oh my God, I just spent $100 on a phone call.
It is service, right? Yeah, in the middle of the Honduran Sea.
I was just gonna say that working with sellers, there's this thing that happens, so I never offer this right boxes and they get packing and they're packing and packing. But often during the last like 2 or 3 days before they're supposed to get out, I'll call and I'll go like, so how are you doing on boxes? And they're all like, we can't get the last. And so I have just loaded up my car so many times with 10 or 15 boxes from Carton Services, give them some extra packing tape, and you just go over at that last crunch hour when they're trying to get out, and they're trying to pull it together. And then they also kind of show you, or like things that could possibly go askew, they'll kind of mention like, oh, we thought we'd just leave this old thing here because we don't, and I'm like, no, you need to call, go to another job, like, you know what I mean? Like things that could potentially make a problem for that final walkthrough, they're so frantic and trying to get out. And so it's like, yeah, thanks for these boxes. And by the way, we found this X when we opened up this cupboard, and they're just like, and it just kind of preempts it sometimes, like things that potentially could have made this little thing when you go through with the buyer goes through the final walkthrough, you kind of pre-managed anything that could have gone wrong. So those last 10 boxes and just helping them get out.
I think showing up for your sellers in those last few days is probably really huge. Really huge, because you're right. You'll see that old freezer that you knew was going to go away, and it's still in the basement. And now they're like, well, we're just going to leave that. Yeah, we're just going to leave that. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of sellers, something that I think is kind of interesting is my understanding, and he's not here, so I can't confirm it, but I believe that Lance Mars always pays 2.7%. Always.
Yeah.
Right? That's my understanding. And I think that's interesting because I think there are some of us, myself included, that I never even look at the BAC until, I don't know, sometimes I never do. I don't know what it's going to be until I get a check, since Iris does my stuff. But there are agents out there who actually do look. And there are agents out there who will like search out those people, right? Oh, it's Lance's listing. He always pays 2 point. I mean, the fact that Sean, you're like, yeah, he does. You know that?
Because I look.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's how you make a living.
Sure.
So I think that's interesting that that little tiny bit on a $500,000 home, we're talking about $1,000. You know, it's not pennies, but it's not the end of the world. To attract those agents who actually look for that kind of stuff, like I want to show Lance's properties because he pays 2.7%. I think that's interesting. I think it's an interesting business model, and I'm sure that that's something that if he doesn't, he should be telling his sellers. And as the market gets a little bit tougher and things are sitting a little bit longer, does it give us that little extra edge to pay that little bit more? I know Noelle Jackson is always 6% and she's 3 and 3. You know, so I think that's interesting. That, you know, something to think about. When we talk about service, it's a service to your seller. Taking every possible measure to make sure their house sells first. Anyway.
That's a good point, because you're also sort of bridging this whole thing about like service to your co-agent. And one of the things, because I'm so new to the industry, and no one told me how I'm supposed to behave with co-agents. And so I just look at.
Is that a new agent class? How to behave with your co-agent?
Should be a new class. But I just started to take on this sort of like, we're a team. So without stepping too far into their camp, really representing my client, first and foremost, I know how important it is that we work really well together to see that transaction through, right? So I think I've just taken to sort of teaming up with them, and also same thing, thank you cards, sending them gifts at the end of the transaction, dropping in their office, giving them a hug, and then just making sure that, like, I don't know, that next time we work together, it's just as smooth and that's really been a big difference in the last year. Right?
Well, and I think anybody who's been in business for a while will tell you that when you see certain agents, offers come through if you're a list agent,
that's right.
You think, oh yes, I definitely, this one I definitely want to work with.
Yeah.
This was so awesome last time, right?
I just had a buyer call me this weekend and they were like, oh, we just left the open house. They like barely started looking. And I was like, oh, okay, like we love it, we want to write an offer, and I'm with the coach. I'm like, okay, calm down. I'll pull up the list, and I pulled up, and I just closed the transaction with the list agent a week ago, and it was a bumpy ride, but we worked really well there to work through all the bumps. And I was like, oh, perfect. And when I called her, she's
would make a
Carries
difference.
water, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it does work the other way. When you have a tough time with an agent, it's like, follow the file.
Right, yeah. All right, well,
I
oh,
just saw something else too, and I just wanted to I want to know what this means. I didn't really, obviously it seems awesome, but I don't know like how it's perceived in real estate. It said $1,000 like bonus to the buyer's agent. Is that a normal thing to see, or is that kind of like?
sometimes it's usually like, if we're in transaction by this date,
Yeah.
happens.
It used to be a lot more normal during that period.
Right.
I always think it's a good idea that your buyer, I think it's a good idea that you disclose that to your client. I just,
They would get it,
what?
that you can receive a bonus if it closes or whatever.
Well, or just that this listing is offering that. I don't think they care at all. They don't care. But would they possibly care at the end of a really difficult transaction?
That's what I would think.
Yeah,
That's
they
exactly
might
what I
care at that point. But if they know in the beginning, they'd be like, I don't care, good for you, right?
would- Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And then they're like, were you just pushing for that house that whole time?
That's what you don't want at the end, right? Don't force me to close so that you get your bonus. I'm just gonna, I know we're over time now, but I did want to also mention, because I think a lot of us are dealing with, as baby boomers are retiring and they're leaving their homes they've been in for 40 and 50 years, and maybe they're not real hoarders, but they're close to it because they've been in their house for 50 years, right? And more of us are running into this. So they always need a rent back, right? When you're representing those buyers, have that conversation when you walk through and you can't actually get through the garage or see it. Let them know up front. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of, worst case scenario, over deliver in the end, and just tell them this is all still going to be here. Yes, they're supposed to take it away. Yes, all that funky stuff in the back that's been there for 50 years should be gone, but let's assume it won't be. Let's plan for it to all still be here, and I will help you. And then do the regular check-ins. Ask the list agent as soon as you're in contract, what's the plan to get, 95-year-old grandma out of the house and all of her stuff? Because we know she's not doing it by herself, right? What's the plan? And stay with it, because there's nothing worse. Many of you have been there already this year than walking in at closing or at possession and there's just stuff everywhere, right? And you've got a panicked seller who feels like they're being forced out of their house now because they're not ready. And they've had that 59 days and they're still there, and everything, all their stuff is still there too. So be sure to get on your agreement to occupy, take those security deposits, get the check in writing, have it, in your hot hands, so that if you are in fact hiring, haulers and whatever, but just stay with your clients, coach them all the way through. Let them drive by and see if they can see in the windows in the garage yet, as we're getting closer and closer. Let them know it's not going to happen. All right, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to leave you with something I read yesterday. Your client's perception is your reality. Take it.
Fly with the birds, fly.
All right. See you guys.